Mongoose Jake here to do my review of the Mongoose Grit, a sub $400 gravel slash adventure bike. I'm joined by my cat Whiskers and the Grit itself. Now, going over this bike, what you get for the $378 retail price that I paid, plus the water bottle cage, is the only change I've made to it so far. So you are seeing it stock for stock. Now, I've been riding it for roughly about 10 months or so at this point, because I bought it last summer, and here we are at the beginning of June. And I bought it right in the middle of last summer, and I've been riding it off and on. And spoiler alert, it's been a very positive experience, so it will seem like a mostly glowing review. So if you want to end it there, yeah, it's worth the $378 price. Absolutely. That's the short of it. Now, getting into the actual details. This is a bike I bought because some of the roads in the area are kind of rough. I'm not really taking it on major adventures off-road because I have mountain bikes for that. But I did want a durable and comfortable road bike that could handle a little more than just pavement. And I've got a video I'll edit and throw up of a short ride, just a 7-mile loop that I do here that leaves the neighborhood, goes around, and some of the roads are under construction. And you have gravel over broken old blacktop and sand actually mixed in as well. So the Grit is absolutely perfect, or any other gravel slash adventure bike. But for $378, you get an aluminum frame, which is pretty striking. It's a very modern styled frame with the low drop chainstays, the disc brake mounted inset to the stays instead of above it like traditional mountain bikes always had. You get a steel fork with plenty of mounts for racks, bags, everything, including a fender mount if you so desired. The frame also has plenty of mounts. We'll get into this real quick here. Obviously there's a mount here where the cage is. There is also a set of mounts up here and in the traditional spot along the seat tube. Down tube, seat tube are your typical two spots. You do get internal cable routing and a very nice deep blue that's got a lot of green to it. And I actually really like the little subtle decals. They're quite nice. And overall, the frame is nice. I mean, it truly is. And actually, I could be corrected by Mongoose if I'm wrong, but it appears to be a shared frame with their higher end gravel bike. Because everything, and I'm talking about the 2023 model, not the updated versions for this year, because everything lines up. The replaceable derailleur hanger is the same on the two bikes. All the mounts are the same. The chainstays, which feature this forged piece, they're the same on the more expensive model, the Guide. So I kind of would be reminiscent thinking that this frame is shared between all the models and all they did was slap on cheaper parts. And that's where I'm going to go into the parts now. The frame and fork are solid. I see zero issues with them. It's a nice upright feel compared to a more traditional road bike. Provides good control. Whiskers approves. And I quite like it, especially in my role of a mostly road bike that's going to see some gravel here and there. Now, the cockpit is your traditional drop bars, which, for me at least, have a nice feel. Even the tape is good. They actually did a very good job on that. I've seen some rougher tape jobs on local bike shop bikes. You get a threadless stem that is a semi-integrated headset, but threadless stem, aluminum bar, and you get micro shift 7-speed. This is one of the only things that I'm going to harp on later. But the triggers are good. The triggers are actually good. I might live with it for as long as I possibly can. I've already rode it for like 10 months, and it's been passable shifting. the shifters themselves feel good, good comfort levels. The trigger here actually has a rubber insert, which is nice feel-wise. The throw of the levers is good. The response is nice. They actually pair up well to the brakes. We'll get onto those later. But you end up with, overall solid components cockpit-wise, because you have a aluminum post with the better clamp style. And the saddle's actually not bad. I'm not rushing to replace it like I do normally. Normally it's a WTB Rocket V or Pure V thrown on as quick as I can. I mean, basic quick release seat clamp. Nothing much more to go on. The cockpit components are passable. They're better than what you used to get on a $300 or so bike. Going into the cranks and pedals, this is where you can realize that it's a cheaper bike. I mean, even bike shops throw on plastic pedals or your most basic alloy. These things are throwaway, but they've actually done a decent job of surviving to this point. The cranks and bottom bracket hit these in 2 different points. The cranks do have some flex to them. I'm not a super light rider. I'm around 200 pounds, and I'm a power rider. I actually can put enough flex in the crank arm, and I did check it, it's not the frame. I put enough flex in the crank arm to get the chainring to sometimes flex enough that my shifting is actually, not my shifting, but the chain itself will actually start to rub on the derailleur. Moving to the other derailleur. Unfortunately, we get a freewheel, which is one of the things that I still can't quite get away from in its entirety. Yeah, entirety. Speaking kind of hard. And yes, I've got the so-called dork disc still on, and it's going to stay on, at least until I replace the wheels. But the Mega Drive freewheel, it combined with the Microshift 26C provides passable shifting. And yes, we're going to say passable. This will be one of the things I change. This setup. I'm going to try replacing the wheel and freewheel, and let's see if that cures the problem. Because the problem is, much like the Hyper Explorer, you end up with either bottom 2 gears or top 2 gears having issues. That would normally lead into a bent derailleur hanger, or maybe even a bent cage. However, I want you to notice what I'm doing. This isn't moving. The actual upper, the B-knuckle pivot, I've adjusted it even to try to get what I can out of it. What I am thinking is this derailleur is not rated for this gear range. That's what I'm going to think, because this gear range is just big enough that, and if I can remember to, I'll put a little graphic with the actual gear range, but I think that this is just big enough to exceed the maximum capacity of this derailleur. Could be wrong, but that's what it's acting like, because it wants to, the derailleur's jockey actually wants to bump onto this, and it causes some shifting issue. And yes, I adjusted the B-knuckle tension to try to push that down or out as far as I can. Didn't help. No adjustment has helped. It's either I get good shifting to the lower 1 and 2, or I get good shifting to number 7. I don't get to choose both. So I've got great shifting from 7 to 3 and fine shifting down to 2, and then it gets iffy down to 1, which I rarely use, so it's okay. However, these Kenda kickbacks, those things are awesome. I absolutely love these tires. They roll smooth on the pavement. Like if it's pure pavement, they roll smooth enough, but they easily handle the sand and loose gravel over blacktop. That was the whole reason for me actually buying this bike. As you can see, the tread pattern there reminds me very much of like the small block 8 or the slant 6 from the mountain bike side of things. We'll actually turn turn that all the way around, because these are actually one of the highlights of it. One of the highlights. Now moving on to the brakes. And whiskers. These brakes are Radius branded mechanical discs. And again, they're suitable. They're definitely not the worst thing on the bike. That's coming up here in just a second. But this will do the job for the time being. But I would love to see this with like some Avid, BB7s. Or maybe even, I might even give a try of some of the hydraulic that are cable actuated. I might try some of those. Moving on to the worst part of the bike. Doing a very jumpy movement here. The bottom bracket. This thing has ground and ground and ground. There is nothing that can be salvaged about it. The bearings were pretty bad straight out of the box. But that's an easy fix. And that crankset's going to get replaced. And between the crankset and the rear, you unfortunately end up running out of top end. That's one of my biggest complaints. The Mongoose Grit, what do I think? It's well worth the $378 that I paid. I have zero regrets, and I think with a couple of upgrades, this could be a very solid bike for long term. Like, I don't see myself getting rid of it. Now, I think a wheel set is in order, and that a wheel set with, a drivetrain upgrade may push... A wheel set with a drivetrain upgrade may push the cost up to where you say, hey, look at this bike, look at that bike. But no, this has been fine for 10 months of riding. And then I'm going to do crank and bottom bracket, and then wheel set, and then maybe drivetrain, because I'm hoping that the issue is with the freewheel. And if I change the freewheel, because I'm actually going to go down in gear spread to more of a traditional road spread. And then just keep the crankset similar sized when I replace it. And then maybe some brakes. But they're okay for now. They'll be on the back of the line. But stay tuned if you want to see what this becomes later in the summer, because I do plan to do a very, very long multi-day ride with it. And that's kind of why I'm going with the wheel set. Even though the wheel set on this may be okay. But I'm going to do it before I do a multi-day ride. So that'll actually be on the channel eventually. But till then, this is Mongoose Jake with my Mongoose Grit review. Hope you've enjoyed this, and thanks for watching.